Is there anything else you want to say?
Man, thank you so much. It's a pleasure getting to chat with you about not only this, but a bunch of other stuff in between. And it's crazy that after like almost 10 years that, since we first kind of had like an interaction, that you're still doing this. You're still, like it's wild.
I have nothing else, Charlie.
Oh man, please.
This is all I did in high school, and this is all I do now. Nobody invites me to parties.
Listen, I'll tell you something. Like I ran a webzine for a while in a zine here in town a long time ago, and it is a labor of love, man. There is no thank yous that go far enough into all the work that goes into these things, preparing for the interviews, setting them up, dealing with people, all this stuff, reviews and all that stuff that goes along with it, man. It's a lot of work. People don't realize it. So the fact that you've been doing it for so long in this realm of music, it really shows that, you're one of the few gems left in this world, man. So thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Well, I could be better at the scheduling part, as you know. This conversation was supposed to happen last week, and Grandpa over here in Malaysia put the date wrong, got the time zones wrong. So for listeners at home, this is actually Charlie's second time calling into the podcast. First time I was very much asleep because old man Adrian can't get his time zones correct anymore. But as far as and this is an interesting 3-4 months coming up for the podcast, because a lot of the bands I'll be speaking to are bands like Deformatory, who I reached out to years ago when maybe they had one DIY album out on Bandcamp, and a lot of these bands are on or are getting signed to bigger labels like Willowtip and are getting more attention. And it's a little bit vindicating for me as somebody who was listening to bands like Entombed and Morbid Angel while my friends told me that those bands sucked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have been accused of patting myself on the back too much or giving myself too much credit, but I honestly feel like I'm at the point where, like, I never would have predicted that a band like Electric Wizard would get huge, but I knew they were a good band even if nobody else could see it. Or a band like The Sphere or any number of death metal bands that became popular like 10-15 years after I started listening to them. And so, when I heard a band, like, I'm very pass-fail with bands. When I hear a band, either I like it or I don't like it, but I'm fairly confident in my own taste. And so, when I hopefully people who've known me long enough or followed the blog have faith in me that when I say a band like Deformatory is worth checking out, I'm not saying that because I have any kind of agenda. This is genuinely music that I like and that I listen to. And, if people want to know what other bands were like that, I mean, it's every band that became popular 15 years after I told people to check them out. You know what I mean? So,
well, first of all, thank you for everything you say and do. But I'll share a different perspective. I know we're going over some time here, and I apologize, but I think it's important because maybe I don't know if you get this kind of insight, but for a band like us, when you interviewed us in 2014, it was one of our first interviews, right? Because we were a new band. We had just put out that album, and to be honest, it encouraged us, and it was a big deal for us, and it still is. This is a big deal for me. The fact that I could just nerd out and just kind of dissect things that people don't care about, like it's huge, and I think that your role and your blog and all the things that you've been doing for bands, I don't think you realize how much of a really positive impact you have on the bands that are starting out or finding their footing, because, just like our music, it helps to refine us a little bit more. It helps us to realize who we are a bit more. And it also helps to boost up our profile and all this kind of stuff. So to be honest, man, I remember your interview very well. I remember that you created a graphic and you put in like Coated with Malevolence, I think it was, which is like a lyric in one of the songs called the Antibody, which I always love that sense. So I was like, man, this guy actually like read the stuff. He knows the stuff. And it was really a great experience for us as a band. So anyways, man, I can't say thank you enough. You help bands more than you possibly know, and artists more than you possibly know. And you are essentially an extension of what we do. So thank you very much.
Just so you know, I may have to cut out all the nice things that you say about me because I'm not used to getting this many compliments in a row. But I always wonder what bands think when, because first of all, some weird dude in Southeast Asia writing to them out of the blue, saying, hey, can we do an interview? I think, I have a feeling you're around my age. And so, there was this whole tradition of zines from around the world, and bands who were involved with tape trading and letter writing. This is how this kind of music got out there. It was built on tape trading and letter writing, and this very underground network of people connecting to each other. But as far as like the graphics and stuff, I was really trying to get the feeling of those old zines where they would take like a screenshot from a horror movie or artwork from like an old comic book or something like that, and then make it black and white and blow it up and stuff like that. And in my professional life, I do a lot of motion graphics, and I don't know why it took me so long to connect the dots, but I realized, oh yeah, the internet. I could do like custom little animated graphics for each of these interviews. And I've never really gotten feedback like I just got from you about what people think when they see these, when the blogs actually go up and become live. I think there's a little bit of befuddlement as to why it takes me so long to put these things out. Like these really are just Q&A interviews.
Yeah.
Where all the band is actually doing all the work. All I really have to do is hit publish, do a little bit of HTML coding and hit post in Blogger. But the animated graphics actually take some time.
Of course.
But I think like when bands see that somebody put in like the amount of time to do something like that, as weird and random as it is, I think people appreciate it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Just because, I know Decibel isn't doing anything like that. I know, Metal Sucks isn't doing anything like that. It does take one like weird, very strange hermit in Malaysia to to come up with something as random as that.
But man, it's what it's all about. Like, if we're roughly the same age, when I used to go look for music, I wasn't listening to the albums first or streaming a song and being like, yeah, I like that, and buying. You know what? I was choosing it based on the artwork, right? Fundamentally, right? I remember buying albums just because the artwork was cool as shit, and like I didn't care if it was going to sound lame. I needed that artwork, and we're back to the music is one aspect of an entire vision, and I think that what you're doing and some of those elements and like is all part of it. It's a part of the overall package, and it's really, really important, and it's definitely appreciated, but it's also, it's art, and true artists or people who at least have an artistic leaning or appreciation will see it for what it is, which is an extension of a deeper thought, and it's incredible. So yeah, definitely keep it going, man. You're doing it right.
Well, whether you know it or not, you just roped yourself in for the next podcast when album number 4 comes out.
Great. Well, we're hitting the studio in October again with Topon to record an EP. So I'll hold you up to that. Be less long-winded. Yeah.
Oh no, trust me. Long-winded is good. It's a little bit frustrating sometimes when I speak to a band. And I understand this with bigger bands who do a number of interviews in a row, and so they're just trying to get through them as quickly as possible. But it's a little bit frustrated when a band gives me like 1 or 2 word replies for their music. You know what I mean? Like, this is your music. You should be enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes I tune into podcasts because like there's a certain band or artist. I'm like, fuck, finally, I'm gonna learn so much. And I'm like, this is lame as shit. I don't care what kind of beer you drink. like talk to me about what, the instruments you use or whatever. So I totally get that. But yeah, it's new for us. It's new for podcasts are becoming a thing. It's really cool. I like the fact that you're kind of doing a mix of both blogging, podcasts, and all that stuff. It's really neat. And again, you've landed a fan almost 10 years ago now, from 2014 onwards. And we've always checked out your stuff and always followed your stuff. So it goes both ways. We've been very appreciative and always admired what you did. So thank you.
Resolve, malfunction, reveal from sin of God.